Collecting feedback on how well a course worked for a student is very tricky. Most students do not fill up the course completion surveys. However, getting a sense of how useful the student found the course is immensely helpful for a course creator. The input students give in this aspect also doubles as testimonials for the course. Thus, collecting this information is also very important from a course marketing perspective.
Today, we're going to use ChatGPT to create 3 student touchpoints in our course: the pre-course questionnaire, the mid-course questionnaire, and the post-course questionnaire. These will serve as tools for instructors to learn about how their students are doing. Importantly, these will also serve as self-evaluation tools for students themselves to measure their progress in the course. This latter idea is what we hope will motivate our students to take the feedback touchpoints seriously. As always, the plan for today is as follows. We start with creating Emily, our course creator persona. Then we tell Emily what the task for the day is. We buttress that with a lot of context about our own course. Once ChatGPT Emily responds, we begin to iterate. Finally, we will also ask Emily for other ways of getting and giving feedback.
Okay, now that we have created Emily, we're going to go ahead and ask Emily to help us create pre-course questionnaire, mid-course, and post-course questionnaire. So we're going to prime Emily to receive the document where we have updated all the information related to our course. Let's go with that. And Emily is ready to receive the document link. And I'm sending her the link.
And just to be sure that Emily is reading the link properly, we asked her a question about how long the course is.
Okay, Emily has gotten the answer spot on. Here is the pre-course questionnaire that we had used for one of our earlier cohorts. So effectively, this is what we'll be improving upon based on the inputs from ChatGPT. As you can see, we are asking our students to upload a profile picture, and we're asking for explicit permission to record the live session that we'll be conducting. So this is what the before looks like. Now, based on the pointers from ChatGPT, we'll be making improvements on this. We're going to waste no time and ask Emily the query to create the pre-course questionnaire.
This is a nice, simple pre-course questionnaire Emily has given us with questions in 6 areas. So the first is personal information. We're okay with that. Sometimes this information is automatically collected from the platform on which we're offering the course. So we may not explicitly have to ask that on the survey again. The second is of great interest to us: background and experience. This is where the instructor gets to see if the student persona that they've designed the course for is actually met by real students who take the course. Have you ever taught before, specifically online course? Briefly explain your experience. What is the area of expertise? Have you ever trained others in the area? They all seem legitimate questions. The third is course expectations. This is where the value for the student comes from. Once the student has decided to take the course, it's always a good idea for them to prime themselves on what they think they're going to get from the course. So what are their main goals for taking the course, and what specific skills would they like to learn about from this course? From the student's point of view, after the course is over, they can check if they've actually gained expertise in the topics and skills that they were hoping to. And from the instructor's point of view, they're learning in depth what their students really want to learn from the course. I particularly like also this question about challenges and obstacles that the student anticipates. This is something that both the student as well as the instructor must really address so that the learning journey is smooth and beneficial to the student. Number 4, learning preferences. It's a good to have, in my opinion. How do you prefer to learn new information? This is useful for instructors to ensure that they have a wide variety of ways to learn the same concept, because different learners have different preferences. I might be a reader, right? Gautam might be somebody who wants audio inputs or video inputs, or a third person might just like interactive sessions. Somebody might like to be left alone and learn on their own. So there's good information that can be mined over here.
While you classified the learning preference as a good to have, I would actually specifically pick out that question which addresses the specific needs or preferences that we should be aware of to help you learn more effectively, and ask it separately, because I think it helps students who have identified disabilities. Maybe they have a hearing challenge, maybe they have a visual challenge. Any of those disabilities we may be able to identify beforehand and provide accommodations, if any, or if it's impossible to provide from our end, we can actually make that clear to them that there is an issue. That's my only input.
Technology tools, it's a good to have, and perhaps not all courses are very tech heavy. So you can decide how much of the section you want to keep at all. And additional comments is in case you've missed out on designing something in the questionnaire, you allow the student to tell you what you've missed out on.
I wouldn't want to make the pre-course questionnaires too long, because intuitively I feel that the chance of them returning a fully filled form is significantly low because they haven't gotten to the groove of the course yet. But yes, it's worth giving a shot. We can try and see what happens.
Here, I want to give an additional sort of orthogonal point of view that perhaps some instructors could create longer, more detailed pre-course questionnaires. And let me say which portion you could expand on. I think number 3, course expectations, is worth expanding upon. It could be an optional or an entirely separate questionnaire altogether, where you could dive deep into the topics, skills that students are going to learn. In technical subjects like physics and maths, there's examinations with say 20, 25 questions that students take before the course, and they get some score on that. The students don't really prepare for that exam, and they don't know necessarily that it's coming up. And then after taking the course, they again take those same 25 technical questions and see their score. So that is a very real way for a student to see their journey through the course and whether the course has helped them bridge this gap between what they didn't know and what they wanted to know.
Next up, we want to create the mid-course questionnaire, and I've written out the prompt for it. However, this course does beg a question of whether there should be a mid-course questionnaire, because the course itself is just 2 days, 2 sessions, in fact. So if you're starting off with a pre-course questionnaire, then having a mid-course questionnaire at the end of day 1, then having a post-course questionnaire at the end of day 2 might seem a little overstretched, but we'll just go ahead and make one for the time being and decide if you want to include it later on. What do you think, Aruna?
I have 2 points on this. One is that the mid-course questionnaire is really another point where the instructor can course correct. If they want to take some sort of feedback from the student before the end of the course, this is a point where we can do it. So some sort of mid-course questionnaire, I always try to include. Now, to your point of it being overwhelming, yes, one must use common sense to decide how much to thrust on the student, what kind of feedback to take from them, and how much time there is to do it.
Okay, let's go ahead and ask.
Overall, I like what Emily has given. It's comprehensive in the sense that just talking about asking feedback about course content and structure, about the learning experience, about instruction and support, about tech tools, asking also for suggestions for improvement, as well as additional comments. However, in the context of our course, this is too much for a mid-course questionnaire in a course that has only 2 live sessions. So what do we do? The first is obviously that we have a much shorter mid-course questionnaire, fewer number of questions. And the second is also, how do we weave this into the first session itself so that we don't overwhelm the student when the student has left the session?
I agree with you, Aruna. It makes sense to actually have this incorporated as a Zoom poll or a quick feedback collection at the end of the live session itself. Okay, now we'll go and ask Emily to create the post-course questionnaire. It feels slightly extensive to me. I would want to definitely size this down, because by the end of the course, I think students would have pretty much been spent by filling up their own workbooks, doing the 2 surveys before this, etc. So I would want this trimmed down, basically making it kind of binary, what they did not like and what they want additional help on, and stuff that they liked. So I would keep it to something simple as that.
I'll comment on the overall answer Emily has given. Once again, she has covered several aspects that you want to include in your post-course questionnaire. Course content and structure. Yes. You want to know whether it was too hard or too easy, the pace and the relevance of the material. Now, number two is learning outcomes. You definitely want to know whether your students felt like they achieved the outcomes they were looking for. This is again the part where both the student and the instructor can go back to the pre-course questionnaire and try and match answers to see whether any progress has been made after taking the course. That's very important to do. Now, number three, instruction support. Again, I like the questions here. In particular, something you can add as an instructor if you want is specifically mention the instructional team and ask about individual instructors, if that is something you would like to do. Technology and tools, although our course is not heavy on that, for some courses, that part may be important. Course impact and suggestions for improvement, always welcome. One more thing is, in a course of duration of just 2 or 3 days or a week long, and if it's especially very heavily packed with material, one way to simplify all of these surveys is by making them all multiple choice and only leaving a few questions as compulsory and some as optional for those that might have the time and inclination to answer those questions. So this brings us to the last question. We want to ask Emily if she has any other suggestions for how we might collect and give feedback to students in our course.
Okay, these are pretty good. I think some of these we would have invariably incorporated into our course already, owing to the nature of the tools that we're using. So since we use Slack for community, we would invariably have discussion forums. Feedback boxes is something that we discussed internally already. In fact, we were thinking through on how to better incorporate a continuous feedback mechanism. And we felt that feedback boxes as part of each activity in the workbook that we're giving to our students would make a lot of sense. So that's great. We're definitely doing that. Live feedback sessions, peer feedback, one-on-one interviews or surveys, something we already do in some measure. It's already part of our course curriculum and our course workflow.
Just for viewers, I want to say that one-on-one interviews or surveys have been the best way to get very detailed and rich feedback, as well as testimonials from our students. So if you have the time and the energy to do that, that's going to reap you rich dividends.
With that, we come to the end of today's video on collecting feedback from students, be it the pre-course, mid-course or post-course surveys. We will catch you in the next video.
If you enjoyed that video, please don't forget to like the video, share the video with your friends and subscribe to our channel.